In antiquity, the small island of Samothraki in the northern Aegean Sea attracted visitors from all over the Mediterranean world and beyond. It is said that Poseidon, the god of the sea, watched the Trojan War from the peak of Mount Saos, the island's highest point. Home to the sanctuary of the great gods, the island's history and fascinating landscape continue to attract international visitors. Samothraki's inhabitants cherish the beauty of their home, but the delicate balance in the island paradise is under threat. As a result, scientists are now looking for ways to reconcile the demands of modern life with the available natural resources and the environment. An innovative project may prove to have an impact far beyond the shores of Samothraki. Unlike many other Greek islands, Samothraki has resisted the lure of mass tourism, attracting visitors who prefer simplicity and proximity to nature to the creature comforts of modern hotel complexes. Privately run hotels and guest houses provide accommodation for 30,000 guests every year. A significant number of the 3,000 residents registered on Samothraki leave the island during the winter months to earn money on the Greek mainland. Many have left Samothraki for good, but it is hoped that the regeneration of the island will prevent a further decrease in population.
It's an interesting instance that the crisis of Greece and the start of the project coincide, exactly. But this is a project that tries to help Samothraki to stand on its own feet, and that's what it will have to do.
Πέρα από την κρίση την ελληνική του κράτους, εμείς είχαμε και μια κρίση σαν Δήμος, οικονομική κρίση ανεξάρτητα. Αλλά παρόλα αυτά, μας ενδιαφέρει και θα συνεργαστούμε και ευχαριστούμε για τη βοήθειά της όλα αυτά τα χρόνια. Και της κυρίας Φίστερ και της ομάδας της.
Marina Fischer-Kowalski has visited Samothraki for many years. The well-known scientist, founder and director of the Austrian Institute of Social Ecology, soon recognized the threats facing the island and decided to offer her scientific support to preserve the place she felt an intense emotional connection with.
Samothraki started as a love story. I came to this island with my small children and a number of friends, and I was, from the first moment, I was enthusiastic about this place. That's why there is a research project about Samothraki, if I'm sincere.
Her socio-ecological research started in 2007 as a response to environmental degradation reported by concerned citizens. The goal was to create an alternative vision for the development of the island together with the locals. In 2015, the Austrian Science Fund provided financial support for the Sustainable Samothraki project to analyze the complex relationship between society and the environment. Based on the concept of social metabolism, the scientists seek to explore the factors that cause some island societies to thrive and others to collapse.
It started with a feasibility study on this island to see what might be alternate pathways that would be economically, let's say, beneficial, as well as would also preserve the nature and the culture of the islands.
The volunteer Vyosimi Samothraki Association helps local residents to improve their quality of life while taking socio-economic and environmental challenges into account. The international research team provides a framework which allows the island's residents to learn from each other, while a local partner ensures that there is a foundation of trust between the scientists and the people of Samothraki.
η Μαρίνα μπήκε σε επαφή μαζί μας και κάναμε μία ομάδα, στην οποία συμμετέχουμε όλοι οι άνθρωποι που ζούμε εδώ στο νησί. Μερικοί είναι ντόπιοι, μερικοί δεν είναι ντόπιοι, αλλά ζούμε εδώ και πολλά χρόνια και έχουμε οικογένεια και έχουμε παντρευτεί ντόπιους, οπότε νιώθουμε το νησί σαν το σπίτι μας.
The island was once a place of perfect harmony and economic well-being. In the first millennium BC, the mysteries of the great gods were celebrated here. The visitors brought valuable gifts to the island, including the marble statue of the goddess Nike, known as the Winged Victory of Samothraki. Sacred ambassadors once gathered in the Arsenaion, the largest rotunda at the time. Philip II of the Macedon kingdom fell in love with his future wife Olympias here. It is said that their son, Alexander the Great, was conceived in the sanctuary of Samothraki.
Είναι ένας τόπος ο οποίος κουβαλάει επάνω του πολύ μεγάλη ιστορία πολιτισμού και είναι ένας τόπος με πάρα πολύ όμορφο φυσικό περιβάλλον. Χρειάζονται πάρα πολύ προσοχή σε όλη αυτή την ανάπτυξη. Γι' αυτό ό,τι γίνεται στη Σαμοθράκη γίνεται μεν αργά, αλλά γίνεται σταθερά.
Marina Fischer-Kowalski's Institute of Social Ecology has established an annual summer school on Samothraki in cooperation with other universities. Students are encouraged to act as caretakers and developers of the island. Both scientists and students benefit from the intensive 2-week program, which includes lectures and practical exercises.
As a student, you will have the opportunity to choose with which part of the game you associate. And should I
No, I'm the best.
The research we do is basically analyze the society-environment relations on Samothraki. So how do we do this? We identify the main drivers of transformation on the island, try to integrate them in a systemic perspective, and then make recommendations about how to avoid potential critical tipping points of the various subsystems. At the same time, we support the local population in an effort to really achieve a practical outcome. And what is this practical outcome? Is the designation of Samothraki as a biosphere reserve.
So if you want to take a picture of the whole, you have to take different measurements in different microhabitats.
During the field trips, attendees learn about and perform several different tasks, including taking water samples. These samples provide information about benthic macroinvertebrates, an important indicator of water quality and biodiversity.
What I found out in those many years that I was working here and having my students here and doing interviews and investigating, I found out that you can only go after a fairly systemic solution. Because if you start at one corner to change something, you will have impacts on another corner, and that will be maybe worse than where you started.
Approximately 18% of Samothraki's surface is agricultural land, and this is used for traditional farming. Like their ancestors, the farmers grow grain, wine, and vegetables, harvest olives for their small olive oil businesses, and breed goats and sheep for cheese and meat. There are also 4 cows to ensure that tourists can enjoy their frappés. The small-scale agriculture meets the needs of the farmers, their families, and the island's shops, markets, taverns, and restaurants.
The main challenges Samothraki faces are both environmental and economic and social, because they all interconnected. It's very difficult to make a living on the island, and this pushes people to leave the island, so we have a social problem as well.
Εγώ θα ήθελα στο νησί να μένουν νέοι και να ασχολούνται εδώ με το πρωτογενή τομέα για να έχει κόσμο και το νησί, γιατί ερημώνει σιγά-σιγά. Ειδικά στα χρόνια τα δικά μου όλοι φεύγανε και τώρα θέλω να πιστεύω ότι θα αλλάξει αυτό. Θα γίνουν δουλειές εδώ και θα μείνουν νέοι εδώ. Γιατί είναι ένα πολύ ωραίο νησί και δεν πρέπει να εγκαταλευτεί. Και εύχομαι ότι θα γίνει. Όσον αφορά το τυροκομείο, ο Θεός ξέρει. Πιστεύω ότι θα το συνεχίσουμε. Έχω και 3 παιδιά, 3 αγόρια. Οπότε πιστεύω ότι η παράδοση θα συνεχιστεί. Αν υπάρχουν ζώα στο νησί, θα υπάρχει και το τυροκομείο.
Cheese is one of the few island exports, along with mutton and goat's meat. Panayotis Dairy is located in southern Samothraki and supplies the island with pleasant-tasting cheese. The secret to its extraordinary quality is fresh, warm milk, and that the sheep drink salt water. The dairy operates from April until August. During this period, about 60 farmers deliver roughly 1,000 litres of milk a day, from no more than 5 kilometres away. There is no dairy in the north. There, the farmers use the milk exclusively for their own requirements.
According to my interviews, a number of people on this island are willing to do with a little bit less income than they might have in Thessaloniki or Athens or whatnot. But they must have a reasonable chance for income. Yeah? And on the other hand, you have to preserve these biotopes, and they are threatened from various angles.
The island's aging infrastructure is one such threat. Overgrazing has led to erosion, while uncontrolled water withdrawal has impacted the rivers in the plains. The locals are aware of the problems but lack the experience to solve them. Modernization has, in some cases, eclipsed the lessons of history. Samothraki's Mount Saos rises to an elevation of 1,611 meters above sea level. The mountain provides the island with an abundance of water, something many other Greek islands lack.
Η ποιότητα των νερών στη Σαμοθράκη είναι εξαιρετική. Ειδικά το πόσιμο νερό είναι ίσως από τα καλύτερα στην Ελλάδα. Είναι εξαιρετικό, είναι πολύ ελαφρύ λόγω των πετρωμάτων. Τα πετρώματα αυτά δεν δημιουργούν συνθήκες για να εμπλουτίζονται τα νερά με άλατα. Είναι ελαφριά νερά και πολύ ευχάριστα στη γεύση.
Many years ago, these watercourses carried the water from the rivers into the villages, where it was used to irrigate gardens and fields.
Έχουμε αυτό το παράδοξο με τόσο πολύ νερό, έχουμε μια πολύ άσχημη διαχείριση, δεν έχει γίνει ένας ολοκληρωμένος σχεδιασμός για το νησί, οπότε έχουμε λειψιδρία, υποφέρουμε από λειψιδρία τα τελευταία 2 χρόνια.
Πρέπει έτσι από παλιά δεν είχε σωλήνα και πρέπει το μέρος να βολεύει. Ναι, εκεί και εδώ, εκεί κάνανε χωριό. Κάνανε σπίτι, χωράφι, ζώα, ναι. Αλλά πρώτα βλέπανε για νερό.
Nowadays, many people simply place large hoses or pipes in the river and draw the water. Strong rains frequently wash the hoses away. The main watercourses are no longer maintained by the community, and the system that once worked is collapsing. Stelios Garden is a good example of how the old water management worked. A sandbag and some stones are used to divert the course of the water from the main passage into the irrigation ditches in the garden. These provide enough moisture for the plants, and the water is then returned to the main watercourse, which flows on to the farmers below. In the past, once everybody had taken the water they required, the rest was returned to the river. This is no longer the case.
Όλοι θέλουμε εύκολα πράγματα, εύκολα. Τάκ, τη βρίσκεις και τελείωσε. Αυτό θέλει λίγο δουλίτσα, θέλει εδώ να μπεις, να κάνεις, να δείξεις. Οι ντομάτες μου τώρα έχουν 10 μέρες που προβλέμα. Αλλά εγώ φάρμακο όχι. Εντάξει, 1-2 φτάνει, δεν θέλω παραπάνω. Εντάξει, άμα κάνω φάρμακο, εντάξει είναι όλες. Αλλά εγώ δεν θέλω. Θέλω να είναι έτσι. Άμα πάει η ξένια μία ντομάτα, να είναι ντομάτα.
A return to the traditional methods of using water could prevent the draining of streams and the subsequent loss of important biotopes.
Τώρα μόνο όταν αντιμετωπίσουν ένα πρόβλημα και δεν καταλαβαίνουν γιατί, εκεί, ναι, μπορεί να σπάσουν το πάγο και να μιλήσουν με άλλους ανθρώπους και να λένε «Μπορείς να με βοηθήσεις». Αλλά επίσης και οι επιστήμονες και οι άλλοι άνθρωποι που έρχονται να πούν κάτι πρέπει να καταλάβουν και την νοοτροπία του ντόπιου. Οπότε πρέπει να υπάρχει μια γέφυρα.
Samothrakians are proud of their island, their farms and their traditions, including their regular gatherings to discuss issues and to celebrate. The islanders have relied on each other for survival for thousands of years, and they are understandably wary of outside influence. However, their island has undergone significant changes in recent years, and new approaches are required to meet new challenges.
For doing locally relevant research, we also need a good cooperation with local stakeholders, with the commune first of all, but also with certain people, certain stakeholders on the island that know the issues in many cases better than us. So the new development, the new stage of the process with citizen science addition to the Susaki project is basically trying to formalize this interaction between the research team and the local stakeholders in ways that will benefit the research in finding solutions for already existing and identified problems.
One of these already existing and identified problems is overgrazing, which causes animals to starve and soil to erode. However, herding has always played an important role on the island and is still a significant source of income.
Καμιά 200 ζώα είναι. Αρμέγουν πηγαίνουν το γάλα. Το γάλα 80 λεπτά το παίρνει. Το κιλό. Δίπ' φτηνά. Ούτε 15 ευρώ παίρνουν τη μέρα.
Grain, corn and herbs are mixed together to make up for the crops that no longer grow in the fields.
Το παίρνουν μαζί μέρα. Παίρνουν καμιά 15 τόνοι, 20 τόνοι. Τα βάζουν μέσα και ταΐζουν. Το πρωί θέλω αυτά 2 τσουβάλια και 2 το βράδυ 4. 40 ευρώ φεύγουν τη μέρα.
Before Greece entered the European Union, there were about 15,000-20,000 sheep and goat with the same number of inhabitants, and now there are 70,000. The Greek biologists say that the carrying capacity of the island would be 15,000, so substantially less. And this has been stimulated by European subsidies.
In the 1990s and early 2000s, farmers received EU subsidies based on the numbers of animals they had. As a result, they increased the sizes of their herds. Goat herd Mimis has to bring fodder for his 200 goats twice a day. Most of it is imported. Some farmers claim that their goats no longer roam for food, but merely for exercise.
Έλα! Έλα! Ο πατέρας μου είχε λιγότερα. Αργότερα εγώ, επειδή είμαι νέος, τα έκανα περισσότερα. Αλλά τώρα θέλω όμως να τα λιγοστεύσω λίγα να μείνουν. Άμα μπορείς και δαρμέεις, θα κάνεις χετέρια. Άμα δεν μπορείς, σαν και εμένα τώρα που είμαι γέρος, τι να κάνω. Εγώ μόνο κρέας τώρα δίνω τα αυτά. Μακριά από τέτοια δουλειά.
On another field trip, the summer school students research the numbers of sheep and goats grazing on common land. They observe carefully and install camera traps to monitor and record the numbers and the condition of the animals.
We can show across the past 10 years that the animals have lost weight, they get fewer children. Anytime there might be an epidemic among these animals, they are undernourished. And the food that the farmers have to feed to the animals gets ever more expensive.
Overgrazing has also had a dramatic impact on the island's insect populations. When goats and sheep consume everything that grows, there is nothing left for the bees. Samothraki is famous for the honey produced by beekeepers like Stratos. He now keeps a small meadow to ensure that his bees survive.
Εντάξει, δεν φαίνεται στη πρώτη όψη, με μια ματιά ένας ξένος που θα έρθει εδώ, δεν φαίνεται, αλλά εμείς που μένουμε εδώ στο νησί το βλέπουμε, το γνωρίζουμε αυτό το πράγμα, ότι οι κατσίκες κάνουν ζημιά στο νησί. Πρέπει να περιοριστούν.
The question how to reduce animal numbers is not a very easy question to answer. And there are probably multiple pathways towards a reduction of animal numbers. But it's not only about reducing animal numbers, it's also the question, how can farmers survive on the island? And one of our key concepts for this strategy is that there need to be a better marketing of local products. So farmers should be able to live from their products and not only from subsidies.
The vegetation has been damaged significantly. The goats eat the fresh buds in the forests, preventing the growth of new trees. They will also sometimes eat the bark of older trees, which subsequently die. The goats and sheep are not limited to the island's plains. The animals are excellent climbers. As food becomes rare at lower elevations, they move further up the slopes, and the destruction spreads.
The forests are of over-regional importance since they're amongst the last remnants of these Aegean oak forests. But for Samothraki, they do, of course, play a major role. As in comparable mountain forests, they do stabilize soils considerably. So they actually have deep roots, they stabilize these blocky sides, rocky slopes. They hold the soil, so that it's not washed away by torrents, by rains, and so on. And they increase the water-holding capacity.
As the numbers of trees decrease, less young trees grow. Arid areas increase, and with them, the danger of erosion. there are solutions. Reforestation is required, as is the fencing in of single trees to protect them. Above all, however, the farmers must be involved in the conservation efforts.
We have to work with them and we have to understand why they're doing what they're doing. And we have to make sure that they understand that it's their own future. It's also the future of their livestock, of their own goat.
In 2005, the EU subsidy systems changed. Payments were now made according to the area of land that is farmed, rather than the number of animals. Unfortunately, many farmers are still not fully aware of what they are actually being paid for. Changing established systems and preserving both Samothraki's nature and its economic viability will take time. But the scientists have already achieved a partial success. The number of animals on the island has decreased by 1/3. These initial achievements have led to increased interest from the locals.
Farmers were curious about this. They talk in the cafes. I had a meeting, and then other farmers approached me and asked to participate. So I think they're looking for a solution. They see every year that the students come back and try to learn more, and they ask them to learn. And that's, I think, very important, because they are a part of what's happening there.
I think that this is the shortest time that I can predict we could have a result.
So vegetation as an indicator?
Yes, yes.
Raise awareness at the same time, using the camera traps to explain to local people that, for instance, goats are present even in areas where they do not expect them. This results in a varying detection rate, which again reduces your detection rate.
Research has a beginning and end, funding, a deadline that is more strict, but when you speak about the social process on an island like this, or in any other place actually, this is something that has a much different time frame. It's a process that can take on for decades or forever, one can say. This interplay between research knowledge and research outcomes and what would have an effect, a real effect on a real place, is very interesting for me as well, personally.
Present-day Samothraki is an uneasy blend of the traditional and the modern. But finding sustainable ways of preserving the island's distinct character while providing its inhabitants with a modern standard of life is essential to its continued existence. The Viosimi Samothraki Association holds frequent meetings in which locals can discuss potential solutions with the scientists. Whenever Marina visits the island, she attends the meetings in person.
It's up to you or to us to discuss what would be reasonable, what would be next steps, the timing of the whole thing. This is all very open. Because I cannot justify, and I do not want to do that as a foreigner, to push a cause in a Greek island.
Είμαι μέλος και παίρνω μέρος και αυτό πήγε πάρα πολύ, είναι πολύ σπουδαίο, γιατί είναι η σύνδεση της δουλειάς που κάνει η Μαρίνα με το νησί. Και από ό,τι βλέπω πάνε σε αυτά τα βήματα, δηλαδή ό,τι ετοιμάζουν το επιστημονικό προσωπικό της Μαρίνας, προσπαθούν με τη βιώσιμη Σαμοθράκη να το φέρουμε και να το κάνουμε πράξη. Είναι πολύ όμορφο, ναι.
There is a Portuguese experiment on breeding seeds that withstand a very strong grazing pressure. I will try to make contracts with farmers here to experiment with this. And I will bring the Portuguese
Αυτός είναι
people here.
τοπικός σπόρος από εδώ ή είναι κάποιος σπόρος?
No, it's a local seed in Portugal, but it's selection. And we start in small areas, yeah, and we see whether it works. And I would pay for some people who do that in Portugal to come here for a few days and inform farmers who want to test.
Θα προσφερθούν, θα βρούμε ανθρώπους να δοκιμάσουν πάντως. Αυτό είναι, νομίζω ότι είναι εύκολο.
The scientists conducted tests of local soil and climate conditions before introducing the Portuguese seeds to Samothraki. Participating farmers did an excellent job, and the experiment was a success. The plants are strong and resilient, and the quality of the soil has improved. These seeds may become part of the effort to combat erosion.
Mainly it's what we call a permanent pasture. So it's sown in once and you leave it be. There's more food there to eat for the animals once they let them on. And with proper management, they don't have to do anything for about 10 years. If it's done properly, this really stays for a much longer time. A sown pasture with lots of legumes, lovely and green, lots of biomass, a natural pasture. So even with color, you see the difference of productivity, we see the difference. Cover of the soil, we clearly see the difference in this place. I mean, if I was a goat, where would you go? Would you go there or would you go there?
It's a very important project because it can help people to create better food for their animals. They need to reduce the number of animals, but I think it will help them make better decisions for their living. We continue for a second year this project with more farmers participating.
Participation plays an important role in raising awareness for future actions. The project Citizen Scientists encourages young locals to collect data for scientific evaluation. This hands-on experience provides them with deeper insights into the systemic problems facing the island's nature and possible solutions.
They had to search for young trees, count the young seedlings if there were some, but they didn't find any. And that actually made people think of the future of their own forest. So suddenly they could understand, without us presenting sophisticated scientific results, they could pretty well understand what's going on in the forest.
The citizen scientists also help examine the tree populations in mountainous regions to monitor the growth of the forest.
We go to different plots and we do an angle count first to know which tree we will measure. We measure the height and the diameter. We also look at the branches and the crown. Then we have a closer look at the site characteristics like slope gradient and aspect. Another important thing is the vegetation, so we lie a transect on the floor and see how the coverage is from like shrubs or stones, deadwood, something like this.
So you could read a lot of things from these increment cores, which we took from the trees. We saw we have trees of more than 400 years there. There are way older, but we couldn't actually core them because they were then hollow inside. And these are trees, particularly in the high altitudes, that have a high restoration priority. We have to be fast. They are dying, they are dying maybe within the next 50 years or so. And if the situation stays as it is, they will not regenerate.
Another module we're organizing this year has to do with the potential of collaboration and how this can be utilized in order to really make steps towards a sustainable transition for Samothraki. And for this, we will interview certain examples of local cooperatives that have worked and also examples that haven't, because we want to learn from both.
One example of a successful social cooperative is known as Zafe. It is the first of its kind on Samothraki and runs a mini market and a cafe offering local products at the municipal camping site. The initiators of the cooperative introduce the scientists to their intended participation in intercultural youth programs. They organize camps for 30 children, designed to encourage them to engage with different cultures and environmental protection.
I think sometimes you need certain a small group of people that are pioneers, and when things get bad, other people will join in as well. If they see there is an alternative that is working, that's how social change works.
Another example for successful collaboration. The new olive oil cooperative has been established for the island's olive growers. Such cooperatives are of prime importance to local farmers, allowing them to manufacture and distribute their agricultural products. The cooperative processes 700 tons of olives a year for its 130 members. The farmers can either pay for the olives to be pressed with money or with a share of their product. The cooperative is constantly looking for new markets. The goal is to export their high-quality olive oil.
Πιο δίπλα, γράφω αν μας αφήσει λάδι αυτός, εμάς, στο εργοστάσιο. Μετά δίπλα είναι τα λεφτά που πληρώνεις εμάς, στο ευρώ. Μετά γράφω τους φινεκέδες, τα δοχιάκια, τα μικρά που πουλάνε.
Μια υπέροχη μέρα ξεκίνησα και η Σαμοθράκη είναι ντυμένη στα γιορτινά της, στα ανοιξιατικά της, με 1000 χρώματα, με 1000 αρώματα σας περιμένει. Είναι πάρα πολύ καλό πρόγραμμα και κυριολεκτικά γίνεται μια προσπάθεια από Αυστριακούς και από την κυρία Φίσερ μαζί με μια ομάδα φοιτητών από την Αυστρία που εξετάζουν αναλυτικά όλες τις συνθήκες που επικρατούν εδώ στη Σαμοθράκη. Γίνονται και ενημερωτικές εκπομπές μέσα από το ράδιο Σαμοθράκη προς τους κατοίκους για να βοηθήσουν σε αυτή την κατεύθυνση και πραγματικά οι κάτοικοι του νησιού το βλέπουν με θετικό μάτι.
Unfortunately, Radio Samothraki had to close down due to a lack of funding. Since the closure, informing locals about ongoing projects requires greater efforts. Members of the Vyosimi Samothraki Association therefore visit locals and hold frequent meetings. At this particular meeting, Carlotta hopes to convince the inhabitants to separate organic waste and use it for composting in order to reduce costs for disposal on the mainland. Wooden boxes will be set up in schoolyards and children bring the organic waste from home.
I was surprised to see that, according to our surveys, the willingness of the tourists and the local citizens to engage in a sustainable vision of Samothraki has rather increased then decreased with the crisis.
Like agriculture, tourism on Samothraki requires sustainability. Tourists usually visit the island for a short stay in July or August. Is there perhaps some way to attract them to the island in the off-season? Although the plans are ambitious, Samothraki has great potential. The breathtaking beauty of the landscape makes the island ideal for hiking, while the ancient sites are fascinating. Soft, sustainable tourism could contribute to the island's regeneration.
One of the goals of the project is to contribute to an ongoing effort to put Samothraki in the network of a UNESCO network of biosphere reserves.
UNESCO biosphere reserves are regarded as laboratories and catalysts for sustainable development. As a result of its rich natural and cultural diversity and heritage, Samothraki has a good chance of being included in UNESCO's Man and Biosphere program, which was established to promote improved relationships between people and their environments. The scientists support the island's candidacy, which also includes the establishment of terrestrial and marine conservation areas.
I have a vision about a much more prosperous island, but prosperity brings always some dangers with it. We need to keep actually the balance. And the whole issue of a biosphere reserve is this balance between conservation, sustainable development, and actually an education, transmitting the message for the region and beyond.
It's nice to see their enthusiasm that the whole thing is developing into something, and they give us their support. I really believe in their support, and that will help a lot.
Η UNESCO δεν έχει καμία εξουσία, δεν δίνει λεφτά. Δεν είναι αυτό, δεν είναι μια επιδότηση. Αυτό το σύστημα των επιδοτήσεων έχει τελειώσει. Δεν είναι αυτή η λύση. Οπότε η UNESCO θέλει απλά να είναι η ομπρέλα. Να ανήκουμε σε αυτό το δίκτυο, στο οποίο κυκλοφορεί η πληροφορία που θα μας είναι χρήσιμη και να οργανωθούμε σε τοπικό επίπεδο.
Whenever they take their fishing boat out, the two friends, Kostas and Mamaras, are confronted by the grave consequences of overfishing by large international fishing fleets. This is happening throughout the Mediterranean Sea. The protection of the marine area as a biosphere would allow the fish populations to recover and ensure sustainable fishing for future generations on the island.
Δηλαδή να εφαρμόσεις κάτι και να βλέπεις μία μικρή βελτίωση σε οποιοδήποτε επίπεδο να είναι, δηλαδή και στις ελιές και στα ψάρια και στα ζώα, θέλει χρόνο. Οπότε πρέπει να προετοιμάσεις και τον κόσμο για να έχει υπομονή. Έχουμε χάσει την υπομονή. Όλοι θέλουμε αποτελέσματα now, τώρα.
αν δεν κινηθούμε τώρα σωστά, θα χάσουμε τελείως το παιχνίδι, πιστεύω. Δεν θα έχουμε πια ούτε ανάπτυξη, ούτε τίποτα. Δεν θα πάμε καλά.
Even if the right decisions are made and Samothraki is able to establish sustainable development, it will continue to be dependent on the regular ferry service. The ferries carry waste and some trade products from the island and deliver goods and food. They also allow the islanders to receive healthcare on the mainland. The dependence on the mainland is both economical and political. There is a limit to what may be decided at municipal level. Even establishing an organic waste site on the island requires permission from Athens. The people of Samothraki therefore focus their efforts on issues that they can deal with at a local level.
I would like every year for the situation to improve, to have a better environment there, managed more sustainably. And for people, this is my dream, to take the situation on their hands, to forget about the central government, this idea that the central government will solve their problems, and get really involved on this process and be really, really active.
Δεν ξέρω αν είναι κάτι προσωπικό ή αν όντως έχω καταλάβει ότι το νησί είναι πολύτιμο, χωρίς να ξέρω από επιστημονικά πράγματα και αυτά. Και νιώθω ότι θέλω να κάνω ό,τι μπορώ για να βοηθήσω αυτό το μέρος. Εθελοντικά. Δεν είναι θέμα, δηλαδή, ούτε επιβίωση του τίποτα. Είναι ότι αγαπάω το μέρος. Κάτι εισπράττω από εδώ που θέλω να μην χαθεί. Αυτό. Αγαπάω τη Σαμοθράκη.